high interference, high track location settings, high position locations, all levels. This measures its communications cyclones in high setting. You're going to see a lot of cyclones, high interference, and travel communication set rotations. This opens all new signals in high interference, high track location settings. Okay? So sometimes you have to understand how this works. Really recognize what's going on with your provisions. This opens all signals in high position locations, right? We go through the gamma sigma. Now the track lines in the position of your 12 DNA rotates its signals, okay? Now, like I said, we start with this line connection, okay? Now, recognizing high center interference, this is all about understanding how to see yourself, okay, in a cocoon set. Now, the cocoon set lines to its hive. The hive set's line positions. So you got 4 trimasters, okay? So you got 4 trimaster settings, okay? Now, the trimaster line of rotation sets position location of 6. That's a half pipe line setting into 6, plus lines into negative line rotations in position of 5. 5 equals 6, 6 equals 7, and 7 line position of 12 central communication line settings. Okay? Recognizing the communication and what's going on with you is understanding the convulsion set lines and position of conversion. Now the conversion line center rotates its set location to its earth. The rotation earth line rotation, setting correlation system to the inner core and the outer core line setting. Okay? Now, once you understand the line setting location of 5 changes line settings into 5 positions, setting communication another 5 position line settings into a triangulation set and set location. Okay? So recognizing time stepping, time rotations, time interference, time lock location settings. Remember how we got into backlock line, setting line, interference line, direct locations over pi, setting line, rotations, set lines, and communication system. Over pi, calculations and set lines of pi. Pi, position line, direct locations into underscore plus equals locations of pi. Pi, position line, setting and high line, rotation, interference. Imposition of tri, imposition locations into mester, trimester line setting, okay? So that position locations in position of 4, okay? Timelines of 1, equal line conditions into 4 million channel line streams in set locations into its split in 4 line settings in position of pi in 4 central set lines of communication. 4 central set lines in communication, set in position. Okay? So you have to really recognize what's going on with your perception line screens. So once you get in that line setting, everything gets a lot more easier, but the convulsion locations, the earth line rotations, comes into all position locations into its set signals. All right? Now, this is the cocoon line. All right? This is the rotation spin line, set lines in rotation and position location to this line communication. Setting to your earth rotation setting in high setting locations, and to a new flux capacitor position line connections high setting. The line center, electrical line center, line rotation interference in direct locations, to a new circle line rotations, to a new power generation line setting, into a new magnetic high wave emission line setting, into 3 waving weather patterns in set location at 3 ground site location, into a cosmic universal line stream. Okay? So once we get into the mutation wealth, it comes into circuit pockets. Now the circuit pockets is its data line setting. That's 3 line settings and 1 line waving cycles of space line in cell locations into earth rotation. Space division location splits position of center line communication. Now space communication comes into high lines of travels. Now the travel line centers, let's change position locations all levels into higher communication line settings. Box position locations, all levels of travel settings. Okay. Communicate to line setting or stream location, all levels of travel. And when you travel through all line position location of traction, you have to recognize what you are doing through coloration line settings. This positions its high center locations to its travels. This opens all position locations near travel line positions to higher communication line settings. This sets all levels of view in line communication to program locations. This puts you in a better track locations to higher channels. High stream and high center and high positions all level position line settings put your higher communications to high levels of travel location. So as you're going through the box line channels, its rotation to its spin cycle of operation. Now the operation line setting sets line position locations to the inner and position locations to the high center locations, right? Now this travels line position location into one line of one measure. One measure, okay, one equals one measure line setting, okay? So that's 1 million equals line position location into one equal line conditions to line center locations into trimester. So setting, correlation setting, and height interference over pi. Now, that one box line center comes into higher levels of security, position, location, and directions. Now, once it comes into line interference, it comes into a higher communication to its program set location. Now, once you get into that line setting, high interference, it comes into higher communications into higher dimensional realm in a circle line setting, okay? So basically what it's doing, it's creating a new line rotations into a cloud channel in an operation, okay? Setting communications into lines of northeast and south line west of correlation settings, and a rotation to its position of its direction, okay? That's his first trimester right now. That's what's going on with everybody's Earth perception streams, okay? You have to really understand how they set these things up to your set line interference. It really, it's a kind of like reduction line setting into a cell modification to the body line setting and high interference. It's position of direct locations, okay? And so it's kind of like an cellular channel in operation stream set. This sets a line communications into your modification cyclones, is setting line interference into north line rotations, into valves of communication system to Earth perception line settings. It has 4 trimesters that it needs to go through. Now the set lines in communication system allocates position locations into 365. 365 line setting, that's 3 line settings in high center line rotations, 3 line positions, and 3 low position locations into higher channel communication. Now the set lines of 3 line settings, 3 line center equals line position of 6. Now the 6 does a half pipe and set line division. Setting division locations comes in cross line signals to another half pipe, and 6 sets line position locations into negative over positive in set locations of pi and central calculation. Now the central calculations of pi sets a perception to its high setting to its correlation. Now the intelligent line stream sets a higher line position location of high setting in set locations. Now we take the 3 line centers and 3 interference position location into perceptions over pi. Recite and high line centers and high line position location of track interference into all levels. Y line setting and set location into flux capacitor. Setting high position locations into its track location. Setting position locations of disposition line settings into another half pipe in the quarter line setting into 6 positions. Crosses signals and high line travels in rotation. Now the rotation spin cycle sets line position locations. The sun sets up a high line rotation spin, okay, into all levels of digital layers of correlation settings in that location. Now as the sun line sets line position to 3 line track lines comes in position of its moon in a rotation spin cycle and high generation stream sets. Now the stream sets line position locations over 6 and into 3 into 6 in position of 3 and 3 and 3 line set rotations into graph line rotation streamlines and allocate position of time sequence of a line setting communication setting in its rotation position. High triangles and set locations, all right? So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 set and location settings, all right? Now this governs its set lines and high line rotation interference. We crisscross the other way in a 9 line division. In 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Setting correlation system to its position locations, all levels of its hive. That's the hive line setting and high rotations, 365 line setting in 3 line position locations into 3 million channels, 5 generation streamlines into all position locations, into 9 line operation cycles, and high center line and rotations into its mutation valve and its correlation system of operation signals in its signal line setting of its gamma signal location setting. Okay? Done by equation. So, knowing how to set the hive lines and really understand the trimesters to its line center locations is 4 over pi. Position line conditions of high setting. Okay? So recognizing the speed line setting and high line interference, it comes into circle lines of communications. All right? Now the circle line and the line rotation interference. So what it's doing is creating a transformation valve set. Now that sets line position of circuits, setting line position of box location settings in rotation. All right, so this is where it comes into all levels, into reproduction. Now the reproduction sets line position ocular line settings into 4 track locations in the AMI universe of data stream sets. The line communications come to another line position of Fibonacci set lines and higher communication of travels in set locations. All right. So what I'm doing is I'm just going through the trimesters of 1 to 4 to know exactly what you have to understand is how to go through the 9 valve line setting in high rotation position locations in a 9-month period in its position location to its birthing line setting to all earth perception line setting to turn your earth perception line streams and high center line generation stream lines into holographic line communication settings into all levels of numbers of its equation. Hooah. All right, so setting signals and high center line interference. Now this is where it comes into get all levels of magma, set lines of Magnus and set locations into gamma into 1 line signal. Now that 1 line signal opens all line standard rotations in its position of its directions. Now the direct line setting sets position into flux capacitor into a new ground of our operation line position. Okay, so once you open that line signal, it comes into high line communication. It opens cycles into a pyramid setting in rotations to another pyramid setting into set locations, 1 up and 1 channel down in set locations. All right, let's go into a little bit more all levels of what's going on to set locations into this setting line settings. All right, setting locations. All right, now it comes into a new Merkaba, a new channel option streamlines and correlation settings, high line rotation in its direct locations. Now the channel line stream doesn't understand its division yet because the trimester is in position only in 4 settings in set locations. Now the 4 line settings, let's bring this down a little bit. Center calculations into 4 line settings, in crisscross location of 4 line settings, into crisscross into 4 line settings, into crisscross into the center of 4 line communication. Now it sets lines in communication at all levels. This opens all these locations to higher line settings. Now 4 line centers equals 6 in line position locations into another half pipe that rotates its spin cycle on the opposite set location. Now the 6 line center line its set locations into the opposite system position location, opposite circle location of its direction. Setting correlation system into a new valve of correlation line setting in a rotation spin cycle of all measures of correlation system to a new high setting in its direct locations to its conversion of its hologram stream. Done by equation. Okay. So, setting line interference of 6 line position of 7, 7 over 8, 9, 10, and 11. Correlation panels of correlation settings and high division locations. Reproduction settings, put them in direct location of trimester settings into 21 sets. Now this 21 sets, that's you guys in your position locations of where you are through capacity line setting. This rotates its spin cycles and high center generation stream lines in all levels of correlation setting. This reduces its position location to its increase. The increasing set lines and high center and high interference sets position location in your direct locations to its center line communications of its operation line settings and high line rotations into 0 of 22 locations. All right. So congrats on that line interference. You guys are open through your all set locations at 21. All right, so setting levels of graph lines and set locations. All right, so we got 2 brackets of channels, okay? So I'm just showing you how your Earth is transferring, how it's going through transmutation, how it's going through its opposition of its mutation, how it's going through its transformation. All right, just showed you exactly what's going on through trimesters. So you get 0 line in rotations into 2 positions and set locations into another 2 positions, the opposite system and set locations, all right? So you get 2 operation channels, okay? and you get two operation streams. Now the two operations, let's say split locations of two lines in set location operation, 2 equals operation settings. So that sets line position of another zero line rotation in a bracket surface location. Now the bracket line interference equals line conditions. Now this north line into south line in position of east, in position of west, into your positions to your new Merkaba set location. All right. So that splits anomaly. It sets lines in communications to all levels. All right, in a rotation spin. Okay, the bottom setting. Recognize communications all levels. Now setting communication line settings all levels high setting. So we get the bracket line setting locations of 1. Equalizing to new ground levels, equal location high setting interference. So say that's 1 Z line setting into Z lines of gamma. This is gamma into rotation into all level settings. Now the rotation sets line position locations into all levels. This triangulates its 3 line settings into 6, into 7, into 8, and into 9. 9 sets line position, 9 equals 3, and 3 equals 9. That 9 line rotations at 6 equal line setting. 6 in position to another half pipe in rotation set rotation. Okay, knowing exactly what I'm doing is to understand everything the correlation system is set up through formula of its equation setting. The recognizing spin cycles and high generation streamlines and high position location to calculate line-to-line interference is recognizing box line position locations equal line conditions of triangle sets and set line position locations into higher line positions of its track system location. Done by equation. All right. Okay. So, in setting lines and high interference and high triangle communication setting is a rotation spin cycle. This opens up position location near track lines, right? Setting communication Gypsy, all levels of Heather, line position locations into Max in position of Val, Chris, calculation settings, all levels of Mumble position location high setting, all position of Heather line communications of Guardian line position location Geneva line rotations high setting line position location of Johnny position locations into Tara, setting line and rotation in its direct location of settings. Now, understanding the trimesters in a 9-month period is to understand the communication to its conversion. The conversion of line setting and high line rotation in direct location is all levels of detected locations, setting high positions of triangles and set locations into your process line settings. This is streams over pi. Okay. Streams. Okay. Over pi. Okay. Streams over pi. Now, pi sets line setting. Remember, you're always using a half pipe in correlation set lines. The 6th position location has to understand the pi recognition of timelines into 2 sectors of communications. 2 line set lines and high line and rotation interference. All right. So this where it comes into a mountain surface. Okay, mountain equals surface and line settings into all levels. The surface line comes into interface line settings, intercept locations. All right. So you get 2 mountain surface line settings. That's position location 51. Setting line position of 52. Setting line position of 55. Setting line setting and high position locations. 3 pyramid set lines and high center location settings. Okay. Now you do a tri-line setting into positions. Okay. Setting line position locations into 0 line rotations into a set location. Okay. Done by equation. All right. So everything that I'm doing is setting up through tether. Now tether is a connect line setting. Your job is really recognizing the frequencies to your pattern communication system because it's in position of its high set location of its crystal grid set locations. So line setting locations into 1, 2, 3, 4 set locations in this crop circle. 4 laser direct line settings and set location to its position of its measure. Now the measure line setting line interference is your earth rotation setting in high setting locations. Now the earth line sets a vibrational line in a high line rotations in position location or track location. Now setting line position location comes into this line setting, setting communication in a 0 line rotation, setting communications into an energy field and rotation to its atom line rotation calculation. Now the line inner rotation interference sets line positions, all levels of electrical light setting location to 3 line settings and ground settings. The rotation spin cycle sets a new position location of high center rotations into circle locations. Now the circle locations come into an orb line setting. An orb channel rotations into one line sector, into 6 positions again, into another half pipe and set location as 6 line setting, into 666 and 6 positions into its diamond core line setting, aim rotations to its UFO line rotation, and scan line setting into center operation. Done by equation. All right, so recognition line settings is to understand all position cases how to course the system. Coursing system is really understand how to set lines, remodification line settings, signals, rotations, gamma line setting, high interference, radiation cycles, high center line generators, and streamlines. This is all levels of neutralizing set lines and high line interference of overdrive. The initial program set lines and high division location is all levels. So remember line interference is 7 line position equals 5. 5 line setting line positions in position of box into square set location. Now the square line center sets line position of 2 and set line position location of 1, equal line position location of 6, which is another half pipe position line direct location. Okay, so as we take the 6th line, we crisscross line position locations to higher level setting. The rotation spin cycle sets line position locations. The 7 comes into the center line communication. Now equal line connections in set locations into 5 channel stream sets. This comes into 5 equals line setting into 5, into 5, into 5. The bracket location comes into set locations, setting line position into 4, setting positions into 4, setting positions into 4. So we bracket the 3/4 set line interference, bring the 4 lines in set location to 3 line communication settings. This rotates its spin cycles and high generation line setting to a new realm of correlation system in its dimensional setting rotation. Done by equation. Okay. So, really recognizing numbers and sequence patterns, correlation line streams, it's really recognizing all communication to your set lines and how you basically coordinate your position locations of your modification settings, right? Recognizing pyramid set lines and 4-line communication. Standard communication, laser communication line settings and high center interference. Panels in line interference and positions all levels. Now you get the over pi set location. Okay, setting position locations. Timeline sequence of 5, 5, 5. Now we already bracketed the 5, 5, 5 into set communications into 4. So everything I'm doing frame line centers of future line settings. Bracket the 3/4 set locations, 4, 4, 4. Setting equal line conditions of 5, set location of 6, centers the 6 into 7, and set locations into 8, and 8 crosses streams into 9. 9 rotates its spin cycle into 12-line communication settings. Done by equation. Now, understanding sequence lines of string lines, it's all about rotation spins. Now, the spin lines of teleportation stream interference is unified as location settings. Its rotation, its spin cycles, and high generators and stream locations. This opens all channel operator streamlines into allocate position of time. Your time is in sector line communication. Okay. It's all levels of travel records of timelines and high designations. How you use the channel stream sets is all levels of U provision. All right. So once you get into that line setting, it's really recognizing everything through all levels because you guys are in a 21 signal, equal line conditions into gamma, equal line conditions into sigma, sigma into magma, magma into magmus, and magmus into 5, into set locations into 5, 5, 5, and set locations into 4, 4, 4, into line interference. Now the 4-line center line positions into its back force, negative over positive, setting line position to 3, and set locations. It's really interesting to look at these line settings, right? So 3-line setting stays underscore. The 3-line setting sets 3 here, and 3 here, and set locations, all right? So that's 3 satellites and 3 set lines. And 3 equals satellite set lines into Z line into rotation into a UFO and set location to a new ground setting or rotation. Okay, done by equation. Now, setting up line streams is really recognizing the communications to its line setting. You have to understand how to recognize the kaleidoscope locations. So we got the open signal in the dimensional setting in this way location. Now it looks like, where is it going? Is it going in or is it going out? right? Is it going in or is it going out? Setting communication is coming out in signal into 2 add-in-line rotation settings, okay? Now the rotation spin cycle is off calculation line interference. Putting business locations into all level system in a rotation spin cycle into its yin and yang. Now the line rotation interference has a cross stream that's off position in this direction, okay? The high center line interference crosses its position locations all levels. The high center interference, you see the intelligence? See the eyes? See the intelligence? Setting line in rotation interference sets position location to its flywheel of its clocking setting. The rotation spin cycle sets a flux capacitor position location at highest levels. That sets line communications into velocity, into volume, into all calculation system to acceleration line setting into Z-line rotation, done by equation. Okay? So, setting up line position locations on all levels of view is the recognition line connections how you travel through your higher self. Now, as of Monday line rotations, you guys will be in your formation locations into 0 gravity and set lines in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, starting 7 line into equal locations of 12, 12 line center rotations of the box, equal location of triangle. It sets line position locations, higher level setting, in 3 rotation spin cycles in set locations. Now, the spin cycle line interference, the set lines into higher self, sets line positions to higher levels of travel and communication. Setting line-to-line rotation interference crisscrosses line positions. So this is where you come into 6, into 7, into 8 equals 9 line, and set locations into a new graph stream and a high position locations into your avatar setting. Hoo-ah, done by equation. Okay? So it's very powerful. You guys are coming into line settings now. You're recognizing your 20 set lines, which is positionally to your ancestry high lines. It's more levels of securities of parameters that you're protecting locations to your sequence location, which is 4 generation streamlines. These are center pockets line settings. Okay? Now the reckoning line setting, it goes 1 in, and the line center is a 1 out. Okay? 1 in, 1 out. Okay? Setting communications in position locations 1 in and set locations of 1 out. Setting a high interference. Setting line position locations into 2 line sectors and line setting. Now the rotation line center sets a new line rotations into a spin, setting line in position location higher levels of travel communications into your portals of activation line settings. Now the rotation line setting, high line rotation interference, sets a new ground setting in a rotation circle and set lines of 0 and 0 and 0 locations. Okay? Now when the 0 line center sets line interference, the 0 line rotation is 0, 0 line rotation of 0, and 0 line rotations of 0 in the 3 track locations. Now this is what puts position of the past and position of present into future line rotation setting. Now the future line rotation sets a circle in a full rotation cycle in a set line communications all position location and direction. Now that direct line setting sets line position location of higher line stream sets. This sets position of higher levels of security lines into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Grass stream rotation position location higher setting, the structural location hologram streamline. Setting your positions of all levels of communications. Now line center line interference, you come into 2 panels and set lines in position. Okay, 1 in space and 1 in time. Okay. Now, once they're set up, we come into box line string into that locations. Now, the box line string sets another security panel into position locations into all levels of digital layering. On one signal panel operation into another signal line setting. Now, this comes into a gamma signal in rotation interference. Setting signals in high center line and rotation interference. Both correlation set lines in high division location, position location of panel line rotation settings into future adaptation line interference location and calculation. Done by equation. Okay. Lot of things to set up the future correlation setting. All right, so once you get into graph lines and in line, center line interference and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 line position locations, equal line conditions into 5, 5 line centers of 12, 12 position location at 12, 12 position location at 12. That's lines of 36 and line position locations, 36 line centers in set locations into 36 line centers of 10 into line position location of 2 is a 48 line window in set location into 72 track locations, 72,000 line signature line settings and set location to 3 panels of correlation. Done by equation, right? That's it. So it's all set up. It's set lines of communication, all levels of coordinate locations into travel settings. Mechanism line positions over pi, triangulation all position location to formation line setting and position location high setting, time sectors and timelines of time strains. Now the line interference and high line and rotation interference is all position location to direct locations. It's all about channeling your set lines and how to use your trimesters in a 4-line communication settings into your archives of your filters in your line communications into your folders and set communication of cosmic records and high channel streamline settings. So understanding transformation is really understand the position of directions that you're in. Now you have all position line direct locations into all this through its equation setting, right? So once you get into that position of high setting, then you understand the locations when it comes into all communications. So you guys are now in 0 line, in position of 1, in position of 2. Now the 2 line centers put you into your avatar setting, okay? So that's 2 line 1 in set locations. So that's 21 equals locations into its avatar line setting into a basic understanding. Now that's an observation cycle in 2 line set rotations, okay? As the 2 set line rotations comes into, it downshifts this line cross and set lines into a half pipe and rotation set rotation. Now the correlation line setting line in positions comes into a circle line in rotation to its position of its Fibonacci. Fibonacci sets lines in high interference of higher levels of communication to another kaleidoscope and travel location in the opposite direct location is high setting. Okay? Spin cycles and high generation line setting line interference. Your avatar will automatically go through set lines of communication starting in position of 0 ground line setting into 21 line signatures of position location of the patterns. Okay. Now understanding the pattern line interference, the avatar travels through the Fibonacci and goes in set locations and set lines automatically into the set locations, right? So it's interesting to look at the locations when you look at your avatar, right? Once you guys come to your 22 sets. Now the 22 set is already set up position locations into your 12 DNA set lines of communications, all right? Recognizing your galaxy shift lines. Now, galaxy shift line is really recognizing you through all line center. Once you understand your position location direct locations, you understand all levels of dimensional settings in rotation spins. Okay. Now the spin line center sets line division. So you got a line center of 0, you got line center of 0, you got line center of 0, and you got line center of 0. You got line center of 0, and you got line center of 0. Counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 in line communication. Right? So understanding the 0 lines comes into 1 block setting, into 0 rotation, into another 0 rotation, into another 0 rotation, another 0 rotation. 0 comes in set locations into 0, 0, 0 set locations into 3 set location settings. Very complicated, very complicated. So the line communication is coming into crisscross line settings in this direct locations, all channel string lines into your DNA. Okay? Now that's a rotation line setting. Now the opposite system location comes into another Fibonacci that does the opposite setting locations of travel locations, right? Now that spin cycles into 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and 0. Balance on communication line settings, both on position location and track settings. Now we set lines of wires. Now the wire line communications comes into downshift line setting rotation. Setting communication line interference line position locations. Now 3 line center lines, position location of 0, 0, 0, bracket line center rotations into position. 0 line 1 in position and to 0 line 1 in position locations. Now the 0 line rotation sets line position locations. Now this 0 line position location comes into 2. Setting line position locations into line position of 1, equal line position locations into 2. Setting communication into 2, line setting line conditions equals avatar set locations. Done by equation. All right. Setting line interference, knowing exactly what's going on with your provision locations to your target settings, turning it into a levels of computer adaptation surface. All right, but just take a look at that one more time through formula's equation. Very complicated stuff. Extremely complicated. All right, so once you get a better position of directions, your avatar is going to change the line settings of you now. Because remember, you're getting out of the perceptions and you're coming more into the reality of its structure. The structure is its, let's say it's a high division line setting of an electrical unit that's trying to stand the holographic of its system to its engineer of its line setting. That's a rotation setting. In rotation 2 is position location of its directions, right? Recognizing who you are becoming is way more in information line stream. So getting a position line settings, let's say you get into Z front. Now Z front, okay, is very powerful line communication. All right. Setting line interference, the UFO sets line position locations into levels. 1 line setting into 2, into 3, into 4, into 5. Okay. Now, understanding block service location settings. Setting rotation interference, setting a river stream is set locations. Right? That's how a river stream is created. So if you understand the holographic line setting, then you understand the position of directions of what you're doing through calculations, right? All you're doing is you're interfacing line settings. You're setting up a holographic line communication of a river stream in set location to its nature of its communication, right? So getting into that position of direct locations, you're co-creating through your engineering skills, sets in the mind. The mind is turning into an altered state line stream that's setting line communication to its position of its direct locations, right? So I just want you to recognize that line setting because we have a test coming up into set locations, into center communication of its position line settings of its pi. Pi line setting line interference. Now setting line position location, this is past, this is present, and this is future. Okay, so underscore line setting into pause line setting line position locations into set locations into 3. All right. Now the 3 line setting comes into a line setting. Now you got a line interference, which is crop circle, 0 line interference locations into alpha is set locations. All right. Now that sets line positions. So the pi in set line interference is red in correlation. Okay, that's what's on the test setting. Understanding the wave central line settings, everything through pi, past, present, future. In position line direct locations, underscore is all levels of the past line, right? So present is of pi or pi. So recognition line setting is the correlations, all positions, how you use your coloration. All right, so let's say, okay, so in pi line setting, pi equals location of coloration, which is yellow. Okay. Now, yellow line center line interference is yellow equal location of delta. Delta communication set lines and high interference position locations into level settings, okay? So that's a track line setting, okay, in position locations of pi in set locations. Okay? So I'm just giving you a basic understanding of how you guys are doing your test review and evaluation settings coming at the end of the month. Setting line interference and future line rotation interference in set locations. So future line equal line conditions over pi in set locations into setting line interference. Now the coloration line setting location is indigo. Equal line condition position line direct locations in position. Okay? Very easy to do. So you got 15 line stream sets, 0 to 50 through muscle memory. Muscle memory through your structure, not through your voice. So I need to see it on paper. Okay, the test review and evaluation at the end of the month line setting. Setting correlations, set lines, and high line interference. I'll put you guys into 10 line signals into your position line centers, a computer chip interference line, direct location into 10 line settings. That puts you into higher communication system. Where you are in your activation line setting, because your optical set location is coming into computer set lines. Now this is the surface line position locations over pi through triangulation. The triangulation set lines in the position locations is position line settings of 9. That's 9 line setting, line interference, a high line rotation, in position locations of I9 equal line conditions of its operation cycle. Right there in set location, right? So that's where everybody's coming into. I9 operation. Congrats on that signal line conditions on Monday. So 22 in set locations, equal line conditions into line centers of 7, 7 equal locations of 5, 5 position location of 12 in set locations. Now the 12 line center and sets line position locations on levels of 12 line setting into 12 line setting. Okay, setting line interference and set locations. So that's a 3 measure correlation system in position of a pyramid. Pyramid position line center Fibonacci line sequence in set locations to a back force line center rotations into correlation settings and 3 panels of 3 correlation set lines in high setting. Okay? Recognizing what you are drawing is extremely powerful. Okay? So that's all it is. It's just truly understand how to use the scales and the measures, how you're traveling through the mind center location of structure. Really recognize what you're doing through travel. Okay? Especially because you guys are coming into your avatars now. You got a 7 line grounds and you get a 5 atmosphere line stream. Okay, setting correlation system is 12, 12, 12. Now that's position locations, equal line conditions, and 36. Now the 36 comes into 46, sets lines of 2. 2 position location, equal line conditions of all levels of square of pi over factor line setting in direct locations into position. That puts you in a 48 line signature line setting into a 72 track locations. All right. This puts you into your computers of operation. Hoo-ah. Done by equation. And that's what you're coming into. Right? So, there's a lot to be understood to be understanding. Right? The communication line setting is a formation line center rotations. You have to really recognize the communications of what's going on with you. Right? It's not so much of the muscle memory, it's the structure. So, the structure is the muscle memory. Okay, so that's why I want you guys to platitude division locations and do structures on paper first every time you go high rise. When you go high rise, you have to recognize what you're doing through its hologram. Everything is a hologram. So what's happening right now, the platitude division location of planet of operation, the avatar is trying to understand more levels of what it's doing through its thought recognition system in position location of its operation setting through pi. Okay? It's a lot to be understood, to understand, right? See, this is what it is. Your architects, your positions as an engineer line setting really has to recognize the hologram line setting as it travels. You know, it's all levels of use at locations. Understanding the positions at all levels of a dimension to set locations. Okay. Understanding the rotation spin cycle at set locations. Okay. One way and the opposite way. One way and the opposite way. Right? So every time you're going forward, you're always going forward. You're never going back. So you think you're going back, but you're not. Even the atom line rotation is going one way, and the other way, it's coming together. That's all it is. One way and the other way, it's coming together. It has to come together because it's a magnet. It has to come together. If it doesn't come together, it splits. So if it splits, it's like splitting a tree. 2 magnet line settings and line interference of 0 gravity line position location in position lines to its flux capacitor. Sets all positions of compressors to its coils in position location of its convulsion line setting into the electrical light communication set rotation. Okay? Coming into all communications of your flywheel and set locations high setting. Okay? Getting a better understanding the set lines of communications, really understanding what you are doing through your travels of hologram string structure locations. Everything is a hologram of set lines of division through your geometric operation of your direction, your division, and everything you do through division line settings of dimensions. All right. So, and that's all you're doing, but you need the structures on the paper first, and then it comes higher, 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 and then you realize, oh, the structure's already inside of me. So it becomes inside, it just becomes automatic, and everything does itself. Everything programs itself. Everything allocates positions of times of space and space of time of itself. Thoughts are created already in position of you through space and time by itself. Everything does it by itself. Okay? It's so exciting when you guys come into this position of location of directions. Okay? Understanding frequency patterns in set locations. Understanding line division location in the square settings. Understanding star line setting and line rotations. Understanding UFO line rotation settings. Understand positions of one line setting, rotations of two panel communications, and 1-1 and 1-1 position line connections and bracket locations into 3 channel line interference, 3 line settings into 3 line communication, into 3 line center locations, into box locations, into another box line center, and into 3 line position, 3 line center, and 3 line center, 3 line position of north, east, west, and south locations into a diamond core line setting, 3 line position location to a half pipe, set lines and set line connections, 3 equals 6 in line and position locations equal 3, 3 sets line position, 3 equals line and set in, 3 line position location over line center of 7, 7 position of 8, 8 position location of 9, 9 position of 10, 10 position of 11, and 11 line interference, and 12 location and set location high setting. Done by equation. Hoo-ah! Woo! I just set up a holographic structure in seconds per line setting and per channel per square, all through provision locations from 0 to 12. Okay? And that's what you guys have to get into. And I use all communications of all levels of 3 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 line setting, and in high rotation and a spin cycle line rotation in its direct location to its center operation of yin and yang. Hoo-ah. Done by equation. All right? So, recognizing these line settings and quantum interference is really understand the recognition of time setting is really magical when you understand more levels of you through structure of the mind setting. This is an alteration that changes its state and how it sees its mind. The correlation system releases all levels of your imagination, come into all position locations, to all travel line settings, into your structure lines of holographic stream locations, into its conception. Okay? So, it's amazing what we're coming into, right? All through travel locations, a mechanism of high settings through space and time, right? So I think that's good. You guys are learning a lot in that set line interference. Any questions or comments? Let me know. Close your portals and set lines of communication system. I'll see you soon. Adios.